What is up, internet? How are you people? Welcome back to Diet Revolution, place to lose weight by stomping on arrows. Today I have a different kind of video. I want to talk about the future of Dance Dance Revolution, ITG, 4-panel dance games, right? Stepmania, whatever you want to call it. I want to talk about what I think the future brings and some things that could be done to improve what we already have now. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Just a quick disclaimer, by the way. These are not things that I'm saying have to be done. I'm not a developer. I don't create video games. I don't know how to code games to do certain things. I thought this would just be a fun conversational piece. That's all this is. If you guys don't like the ideas I have or the direction I think dance games should be headed in, leave a comment below what your thoughts are. I would love to talk with you guys about this. If you guys want to get even more in depth and be part of the community and talk about this, feel free to join our Discord, link in the description. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. One of the first things that I thought would be a cool idea for future dance games is if we had new additional arrows. For ITG and Stepmaniacs, we already have mines, rolls. Stepmaniac specifically has things called lifts, which require you to lift your foot at the correct time. And then we have things, of course, like Stepmaniac's runs. Looks like a long freeze arrow, but you have to keep tapping it. I prefer Stepmaniac's version because it's actually a counter on it, and the counter gets lower every time you tap it, meaning you have to hit it the correct amount of times to clear that roll, that hold. Think of it like when you drop a freeze arrow in DDR. If you don't keep tapping it, you're basically dropping it. What else could be done here? When I talked about this in my community, a lot of people said, well, there's already too much visual stuff on screen. I beg to differ. I see a ton of music games having a whole bunch of different style of notes, different kinds of buttons that you have to press. Sound Voltex is a perfect example of this. That game has so much going on. There's so many buttons, there's knobs that you have to turn. I'm more than sure us DDR players can keep up with an additional arrow or two. My first idea was something that I like to call sways. A sway would be something where you're holding onto an arrow and your foot moves side to side. This would of course need new dance pads, so this would probably be in a successor to DDR World, right? It wouldn't be something that you could just do now unless they sold like upgrade kits. That's too much in depth. A sway would have sensors. Instead of just having sensors on the bottom of the DDR dance pad, you would also have sensors on the sides, meaning that once your foot is planted on the button, you can also move your foot like this to hit those additional sensors. I'll play an example on screen what I think a sway would look like. I think this would be a cool addition to DDR. I could picture a lot of songs like the one I just showed you by Taylor Swift. I could picture a lot of songs having something like that. I wouldn't go crazy with it. I wouldn't try to do like 16 notes or higher, but I feel like a lot of songs, as a concept, I just think it would be cool for a future dance game to have. Doesn't have to be DDR or ITG. If a newcomer came along, whatever the case may be. Imagine having a freeze section, like a hold section, and everything else stopped, but you're still going left to right. I think that would be like a really cool addition. Let's say people don't want any more new stuff, right? Let's just say we want to fix certain things right now. Well, obviously we would want something like a groove radar back, right? Can't be the only one that misses that feature. Either like a groove radar or an information panel on the bottom, something like the old ITG song selection screen. I think that would be good. But let's just talk about gameplay here for a second. Something that a player like me recently discovered after a 10+ year break from dance games has been tech. I've talked with people about this in my Discord, in person. Tech is a lot harder for me to get used to because I have an older DDR brain. I grew up playing in the 90s, early 2000s. When I see things like brackets, it's harder for me to just not jump, right? Specifically when it's a 2-button bracket. When it's 3 buttons or more, I already know it's a bracket 100% of the time. But when it's only 2 buttons, it's kind of hard for me to judge what and what isn't a bracket, especially if players don't necessarily chart their stuff the way that people would normally for bracketing. Somebody sent me a video of a dude explaining how to do brackets, and he explained how you gotta look for a pattern where the last arrow or arrows before this bracket, they are complete opposite of what the bracket is. It makes sense when you're looking at it from a perfectly charted, modern style situation, but when you're playing older songs that didn't have that in mind, right? You're not gonna be able to tell, especially if you don't know the song is older, the chart is older. There's no real indicator for it. That's where I came up with this graphic. I found a picture of the actual bracket from DDR machines, and I edited it to look like my current logo, my note skin that I've created for myself, for my brand. So that way it looks like it matches the rest of the note skin. I feel like maybe not this exact implementation, but something like this would be a good idea. Having the arrows come up with a bracket icon on them, indicating that it's a bracket, I think would be a game changer for players like me. Obviously, there's a ton of players that know how to bracket, can see a bracket from a mile away. But to me, I've seen people step on jumps thinking they were brackets because the arrows beforehand makes you think it's a bracket when sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was just the pattern that led into a jump. A perfect example of this is when I created a step chart for the community contest I hold. Somebody thought I added a bracket into my chart. No, it was not a bracket at all. But the arrows coming up previously would make you think it is if you're a bracket player. As someone who didn't do brackets or didn't really care to do brackets, that was just a normal pattern for me to do jumps. It kind of reminds me of doing the jumps in Tsuguru or of Ismix, which is officially by DDR, although it's a console release. I feel like having some kind of bracket icon, now, of course, in Stepmania, this isn't possible. Maybe you could do this with Lua, L-U-A scripting, or maybe this would be a feature they could add in the next versions of ITG Mania and Outfox. I think that would be huge. I think that would help players like me be able to sight read better. And for new players coming in or old school players who took a 10-year break like I did, getting back into the game, seeing the bracket icon would make our lives so much easier. What about foot switches though? Foot switches in modern ITG basically have a look to them where you'll know it's a foot switch. If it's a 16th stream or whatever, the pattern will come up in a way where you know, okay, this is not a crossover. I need to do a foot switch here. If it's a, what I like to call bunny hop kind of foot switch, you'll see a mine placed somewhere specific to show you that you need to do the bunny hop foot placement, foot switch situation. In DDR, I seen a chart that had tiny freeze holds. So what's good about it in DDR is that the arrow basically turns a different color. So holds in DDR are green. So when they make the hold arrow really tiny, the whole arrow changes color. That's a cool way to implement the foot switches. I think DDR is onto something there. But what if there's even a better way? Now, again, this is coming from an old school player that's basically an old fart in this community. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Just take this as an entertainment video. I doubt anyone's gonna implement what I'm saying. But this is just something that I would recommend. If developers of a new 4-panel dance game came out and was looking for help on how to develop the game and wanted an old school player's point of view, this is the direction I would probably lead them in. Imagine if foot switches, this being the regular shape of an arrow, the regular orientation, imagine if it was just tilted a bit. It solves the problem, in my opinion, instantly. You would basically have the arrows face different directions depending on what foot is supposed to hit it. I'm gonna try to make an example on screen for you people so that way you guys can have a visual. I hope I did it because it'll look a lot better on screen on gameplay than me describing it. But if you can do foot switches that way, I think that would solve a major issue. For one, we wouldn't need mines anymore. So if it's a game like DDR that doesn't even have mines to begin with, this would be a cool way to tackle foot switches. I personally think, let me explain this again. This is just my opinion. This is an entertainment video. Everybody calm down. I know there's so many people that want to fight with me right now. That want to flame me, want to call me names. I think if we had foot switches come up in certain orientations on screen, I think that would solve another issue and make the future for new DDR players, for old school DDR players, it would make things just a lot easier to understand. There's a lot of times where a chart has foot switches and then a pattern afterwards that looks like a foot switch but isn't. It confuses, maybe not all players, I'll just speak for myself here, it confuses me. If there's a way to solve this, if there's a way to fix this, I think that would be cool. Again, imagine in the Stepmania editor, you just bring up a menu, you push foot switch, and then it asks you what direction do you want the arrow to change. Yeah, that's my quick video about what I'd like to see in the future of dance games. Obviously, we would like to see more music, more fun charts, maybe some more collaborations, maybe some more stuff like that used to be in the pop section of A20, A3, like real world music that we listen to here in the United States. It would be awesome if Konami did like a collaboration with K-pop Demon Hunters. That would be awesome if they could do stuff like that. They do already have theme songs from a lot of anime shows, so I think that would be cool. But those are like obvious things you're waiting for in new versions of video games. Let me know what you people think. What new features would you guys like to see in DDR? What new arrow styles would you guys like to see in DDR? Would you guys be cool with shock arrows being able to be separated and just have one per row instead of a whole row of 4? Let me know what you guys would like to see in the comments below. I'll be sure to read and reply to as many as I can. I am Nivik, and you are a blessing. Thanks for watching.